Imagine that you and your family are out at a restaurant and you have a baby whose only source of food is breastfeeding, and your child decides that he or she is hungry. So your mother instinct is to feed the child right where you're at the table. And you were asked by a restaurant employee to either go to the bathroom or leave completely and not come back. Or another situation would be that you were returning to work after maternity leave and you were still breastfeeding your child and you wanted to continue to pump to express your milk for your child. And when you get to work, you are informed by your work that you cannot express your milk. Well, today I am going to talk about how breastfeeding needs to be clarified and the women's rights to breastfeed in public. Breastfeeding is a part of an everyday life, and many women are discriminated against, even though there is a law passed that it is legal to breastfeed in public, but many states the laws do differ. I feel that I am educated enough to talk about the breastfeeding topic. I chose to breastfeed my daughter, and with that option as to her source of food, I knew I was going to face a lot of challenges that comes with breastfeeding, such as people staring at you when you're out in public, or the people deciding to just give you the uncomfortable feeling that what is she doing here? She needs to really go home, and breastfeeding's to be done inside a house and not out in public. Or when I was coming back off of maternity leave, I knew I wasn't going to be able to pump at work because I worked at a bank and there wasn't going to be enough time for me to take time out of the day to pump. I only got an hour lunch. So with that said, I know breastfeeding is one of the best options for a child. So I knew I would have to be done by the time she was 3 months when I returned back to work. But I was okay with that, even though I wanted to continue. With that said, breastfeeding in public has made many women uncomfortable because society continues to ask women to retreat to a more private place, such as a bathroom, or being asked to leave altogether, according to the Lachey League International. I think for society being unclear about breastfeeding in public because of every state has different laws, women are discriminated against, according to the NCSLS magazine for state legislation. 43 states allow women to breastfeed in public or private location, with Indiana being one of them. Also, according to the NCSLS magazine, Indiana allows women to express milk in a workplace for her infant. A lot of the social attitudes about indecent exposure make it hard for women to realize breastfeeding is legal in public. Now let's move on to breastfeeding is completely possible to do in public. With these tips, society should realize that breastfeeding is only natural. Women, they do make breastfeeding bras. They also make breastfeeding clothes. And if women can't afford all that, they can use a blanket and be very discreet and not even people notice that she's actually breastfeeding her child. Also, there should be allowed rooms that women can go to feed their child. Women also should be encouraged that society will adapt to the idea of breastfeeding in public, and that it is very acceptable, according to the Lachey League International. I also have a visual that is blown up that needs to be put everywhere breastfeeding is welcome, such as stores, businesses, restaurants. This is a blown up version, and this is the little version that you could stick on the doors that women know they are not going to be asked to leave, and that they are welcome to feed their child as long as they want. I only know a few stores that allow women to breastfeed their children, such as a maternity store or maybe a children's store. I had worked at one in breastfeeding, a children's clothing store, and breastfeeding was welcome. Breastfeeding has many health benefits for women and children, which includes, if it is possible, breastfeeding is the best option for a child and the mother. The breastfeeding transfers immunity to diseases from mother to child, including respiratory infections. Studies also have shown that 50 to 95% have fewer infections. Other studies suggest that breastfeed babies are at lower risk for sudden infant death syndrome, which is known as SIDS, serious chronic disease later in life, such as asthma, and diabetes, leukemia, and some forms of lymph node, according to the Lachey League International. Also, the health benefits will extend to the mothers too. Studies have shown that breastfeeding reduces the risk of adult onset diabetes and osteoporosis later in life, and in the short term, breastfeeding helps accelerate healing after childbirth, calming the mother and helping her shed up to 500 extra calories a day in pregnancy-related weight gain. Now let's move on to if breastfeeding rights would be legally clarified by health professionals and public officials promoting breastfeeding. According to the NCLSLS magazine, a national goal from this magazine was to increase the percentage of a mother who breastfeeds their babies in early postpartum period by 75% in 2010. Also, according to the Women's News, if breastfeeding is initiated for 6 months, it could reduce infant deaths by 1 million. Also, the increase of awareness and support will also help women be encouraged to breastfeed in public and that it is okay. In conclusion, breastfeeding has always been the way of life, and society has made women feel uncomfortable in public, when in reality we all have to eat, and babies are just fed by their mother's breast. I would like to thank you for your time and in consideration awareness for breastfeeding in public.